Okay, g'day. Alright, it's just a bit of an update. As you can see, I haven't done anything at all since the last video, other than to sit here looking at it, thinking about it, thinking about what could have gone wrong last time or the previous time, what could have done wrong, what could do different. As I said there, I couldn't really find any wear in anything. Anyway, the two things I've come up with. As I said before, like I put a notch in here, which I must have, like I've marked it twice, so I must have made a mark and decided it wasn't close enough to the selector, and then made a second mark. So I think what I did first time around was I've actually put it on the wrong mark, which is only about half to a mil, but it's possibly enough to make a difference. As I said, not fully engaging in first gear. Right, this is the other thing I've noticed. There's in here with the, it's not hectagonal, it's probably octagonal, but there's little bits of damage, where it's been like, it's got damage trying to guide that, octagonal, those, well, it's probably more than that, anyway, the slots, trying to guide those slots into place. And those little bits of shavings and those little bits of damage have probably held it out another half a mil or a mil, stopped it from sitting right down. Now that in itself would affect the proper selection of the gears. Yeah. As for what I was saying before about setting it and then checking that it's how close it gets to either of these in first and second, you're not going to be able to do accurately without making up a whole jig, like a whole 4-bolt jig, because see, this whole thing, this whole shaft, it is like the distance in and out is governed by the casing, by where it sits in, like where those, so here's those slotted pieces. So there's a shim there as well. But as I said, the placement of this whole shaft, in this direction is governed by where it sits in the casing, by the shim. So you can't really go checking any of this without having it set up in a jig, firstly holding it exactly center, because that little bit of sideways movement will affect it. See how much movement it's got when it's not actually mounted in the casing. So unless you did all that and set it all up properly in a jig, there's no point trying to check how far it's going in or out, because you're just not going to get an accurate reading. So what I'm going to do, as I said again, I'm going to spend a whole day easy trying to make up a jig just to be able to test it. And so what I'm going to do is, as I said, I'm going to put it back on the first one of these notches. See, I think I might have had it up to the second notch previously, and then I didn't realise that I'd actually made two notches. And see, that's about a mil there, and that's I said, yeah, enough to make a difference. So I'm going to set it back at what I think is the accurate original mark, original position. And clean the shavings out of there. And this time when I set it in, I'm going to put a little bit of bar in between here and the rest of the box, just to hold it up, like a little bit of bar about the thickness of those flats, and just to hold it up enough so that I can, turn this and make sure it's properly positioned without gouging the casing. So yeah, and then when I'm confident that I've got it in the exact right position, then I'll drop it in. So yeah, all right. Well, I hope that sort of makes a little bit of sense. And I just hope it all works properly this time. So I'm going to do that tonight now, and because I still can't finish putting it together. The other thing I'm going to make, I'll make another video on this too. You have an issue with that. I'll show you in case you haven't watched the previous video. With this special tool that does up the nut, that's this nut here, is what goes on this thread here and holds the whole thing into the casing. You have an issue with it jumping off and trying to like both undoing it and doing it up. Like, well, the first time I didn't actually have the tool, and I managed to undo the nut just with a hammer and a punch, and it probably wasn't tightened up as much as it should have been anyway. But you have to use that tool to do it up, because you got to put a torque wrench on it. It's got to be done up to 150 foot-pound. And there's two things you have to do. One is you have to stop the gearbox from rolling. I'll show you that as well. That's pretty easy. That's just a bit of wood with a couple of holes in it, mounted to the box so it doesn't roll. But the other issue I'm having is holding this tool on the nut without it jumping off. And I've had sort of bars in there and lumps of wood, and it's none sort of worked that well. But yeah, I'm going to make up actually another tool with a bolt adjustment. Yeah, so that doesn't slip off. So I'll make another video on torquing that nut up with the new tool. Anyway, thanks again for listening to my ramblings, and yeah, hope it sort of makes sense. Okay, thanks for watching. Hit like, please.